You will not be surprised, Administrator, that my first question is about money. $20 billion, where does it come from? And I guess, you know, your plans have evolved pretty rapidly since you took post. What does this figure signify in how you're doing it differently?
Sure. I mean, it's interesting. A lot of people think NASA doesn't have the resources to execute on the mission. I'm like, our appropriations this year is $25 billion. $25 billion is an awful lot of money, not to mention we received a $10 billion plus up in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is probably one of the most significant investments in human space exploration that we've seen in an extremely long time. Bottom line is, we have the resources. Are we concentrating them in the right direction? Or are we doing a lot of little things and getting nowhere, right? So we talked today, hey, we're going to hit pause on the Gateway, which was a space station designed to orbit above the moon. Right. We don't want to orbit above the moon. We want to be on the moon. We want to build a base. We want to interact with the regolith. We want to do in-situ resource manufacturing. We want to test out mobility on the surface, do power, communications. We want to build President Trump's moon base that he called for in the National Space Policy. We have the resources to do this. We have a lot of resources at NASA. We just need to move them in the needle-moving direction.
It's $20 billion over 7 years, but all told over the decade, $30 billion. Is this something that you've been able to meet with Congress about and appropriate the funds through that mechanism, or it's just in the budget? It's planned based on the annual appropriation that you outlined?
This is within the resource available, and of course we try and subscribe to a no surprise policy, so we never formulate these type of initiatives in a vacuum. We've met with our international partners that are supporting us in our great return to the moon. We've met with leaders from authorizers in Congress, the appropriators, the White House. Everybody gets fully aligned around how we're going to achieve this. When you talk about these kind of dollars and you look at it across our budget, this is just small percentages of it. We definitely have the means within the resource available to achieve this. You think about it, we have a science technology mission director, right? Does lots of experimentation for future applications from the moon to Mars. Great, we're going to the moon. We concentrate STMD in that direction. We have a science mission director, right? They have a CLIPS program. We do lots of scientific missions on the moon. Great, we're going to the moon. We concentrate that on building the moon base and attaching scientific payloads. It's really across the board. ESDMD, which is tasked with the return to the moon and thinking through Mars. We've got a lot of resources there from Gateway, especially since that was plussed up in the budget.
Resources.
And we are repurposing that to the surface where we all want to be. So NASA does not have a top-line problem. I can't emphasize that enough.
Thank you.
Administrator, you have gone fast your entire life. You were building businesses in your parents' basement at the age of 16. You got Shift 4. You move at the speed of founder. Do your partners, the Artemis partners, move at the speed that you need them to?
Well, we've been talking to industry, and we've been emphasizing now is the time to act. We have to execute with urgency. I've said it many times. President Trump and his national space policy says we need to return to the moon, before the end of 2028. Our great rival has said they will return before 2030. That means success and failure is measured in months, not years.
Yeah.
We don't have time to do things the way we used to do. We have to get in gear. That's why I said during my keynote this morning, we are not going to sit on our hands at NASA and hope industry delivers. We are going to do what we did in the 1960s. We're deploying our subject matter experts to every vendor, every subcontractor, every component on the critical path, not to be passive but active, to drive outcomes. We're going to do this with our commercial and international partners.
Your great competitor, being China. What do you need from a supply chain perspective that you can't get your hands on in the here and now? What keeps you up at night in terms of meeting your mission?
Well, I think it's there's a lot of components on the supply chain that we care an awful lot about, as you would expect. I mean, going to the moon takes the contributions from many. When we talk about building a moon base, we need hypergol thrusters. We were sending CLIPS landers to the moon 2 or 3 times a year. I said this morning we're going to go from bespoke and infrequent to templated and routine, which means we're going to need a lot of hypergol thrusters, right? So this is why we're deploying our subject matter experts into the field with our partners to drive outcomes, because if we wind up in a situation where we're going over budget or behind schedule, we are going to act. We're either going to act with our partners or we're going to apply some of the best and brightest minds from across the nation to build the solution ourselves to get to the outcome.
You said this morning, and you've just reiterated, that you've asked industry to find ways to get back to the moon more rapidly. But I guess to try and make that a little more crystallized, what are the benchmarks that you'll hold them to? What is it? What the milestones that you need industry to hit? And then we can get, I guess, onto the Artemis program from there.
Well, let's break it into two categories. So just returning humans to the moon, we said we got to get at a pace of launching a moon rocket with greater frequency than every 3 years. So we need you to pull forward production, pull everything to the left, set up for another mission. So Artemis 2 is going to launch in a week and go around the moon. Artemis 3 is going to be very a la Apollo 9, launch in Earth orbit, rendezvous with 1 or 2 landers, and then we'll set up for Artemis 4 and 5, which will be a landing on the moon in 2028. So we've spoken to industry and told them, you have to start pulling things to the left. We will, again, deploy resources to help you in that process. We will also rebuild core competencies so we can turn our launch pad to meet launch cadence. But then there's also building the moon base, which is lots of landings in phase 1, which is our test and experimentation phase.
This is where robotics comes in.
Yes. So this is where we've sent a demand signal to industry today. Again, not infrequent bespoke landers and rovers, lots of them. Iterative approach. Land lots of landers, lots of rovers, do experimentation, comms, navigation, mobility, power. We'll learn in phase 1, inform semi-habitability in phase 2, ultimately get to phase 3 where we're looking to have that enduring presence on the moon. This is the demand signal we're sending to industry. Industry's responding.
Administrator, Bloomberg reported this month that there are 2 proposals on your desk, so to speak, one from Blue Origin and one from SpaceX. Different mechanisms for future missions that relate to the moon. In simple terms, in the proposal that Bloomberg reported, which related to SpaceX, Starship would be involved in some capacity with future missions, going in low Earth orbit, combining with Orion and propelling the combined entity to the moon. What are the status of those proposals and what can you say about them and why those 2 proposals came up in the first place?
So my predecessor asked industry, what are your acceleration pathways? Because again, we don't have the time here. Now, I will compliment both SpaceX and Blue Origin are not trying to build a lander to put boots on the ground, to plant the flag and pick up rocks. They're building landers that allow us to put lots of mass on the moon so we can build the base, have an enduring presence, to go far beyond where we went with Apollo and be able to undertake frequent and affordable missions to the surface. So in fairness, they are taking on a technically complex approach. We did ask, how can you accelerate? How can you simplify? Both have come back with options that kind of buy down some of the technical risk. And in both cases, it means different orbits. NRHO, which NASA originally designed in part to support the Gateway, nobody likes.
In layman's terms, NHRO is the path around the moon. Could you just explain that?
Right. It is a relatively stable orbit around the moon. If you were going to put a moon space station, that's where you would put it, which was our kind of agenda up until now, where we're concentrating on an actual base on the moon. It had less abort options to come home. It came, as we would say, a DV penalty, or it came with a performance penalty for both SpaceX and Blue Origin to actually get to. So it didn't really help anyone in that. One of our HLS, one of our landing providers, came back and said, I'd rather meet you in a different lunar orbit. And the other one said, I'd rather meet you into a high Earth orbit. In either scenario, it doesn't change the fact that Orion is going to get to those landers via the Space Launch System.
It's just that NHRO is not included in either plan.
Correct.
Could we speak a little bit about Mars before we run out of time?
Sure. We have a really exciting mission to Mars to be announced
Explain
today.
it, and there is a date, there is a timeline for it, which I was a little surprised at.
Yeah, so we will never give up an opportunity to go to Mars during the planetary alignment window. The next one comes in 2028. We've got a Mars telecommunication network orbiter that's going to Mars in 28, which will carry a science payload. We have a joint mission with ESA, the Rosalind Franklin rover, which is going to go search search for or potentially organic matter. Like it's a part of our larger quest for looking for life out in the universe. And then the big announcement today is we are launching the first nuclear interplanetary spacecraft, nuclear electric powered spaceship, and it's going to drop the Skyfall payload, which is Ingenuity class helicopters on Mars.